My name is Jeremy Covert. I work with Aplos for probably almost 3 years now. I also handle the CMN partnership, so I'm at a lot of the launch trainings and at the conference, helping a lot of those church plants get up and running. But we also work with a lot of established churches as well. Serve some of the coaches, some of the influencers. We work with a few districts as well, in a variety of different ways. So we're very happy to serve the AG community and the denomination and forward the Great Commission. But just to give you a little background on our software and our company, where we come from. Aplos has been around for about 10 years now. Our founder and CEO is a CPA, and he's also a former executive pastor of a larger multi-site church, but he also helped start a couple smaller nonprofits. Through this process, he realized most churches are using QuickBooks, and it's really hard to get some of the fund accounting reports that you need for your board, as well as track those balances, take care of contribution statements, some of the other problems that come with those small business softwares, whether it's QuickBooks or Xero. So we kind of started from the need to be a solution out there that wasn't like some of the other solutions that you'll see for churches that are, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. So we kind of have fit in, and we're doing really well as a company. We were on the Inc. 600 for fastest growing companies, as well as we're serving over 7,000 organizations on an annual and monthly basis. So go ahead and hop into why fund accounting matters, why Aplos matters. We currently serve over 7,000 organizations, and then we have over 17,000 that are using us for donation pages, emailing platforms, all kinds of different tools that we have within the software, which I'll go through more in depth. But we are a cloud-based technology. You don't have to install us on your computer. As long as you have internet access, you can access the platform. Support's really important to us, as I'll get into some more, and we're made for churches and nonprofits. So why fund accounting matters. So with Aplos, it's very easy to track your funds and the balances within them. When you look at being a church, you get restricted income, or a nonprofit, you'll get a restricted grant. People might give you a donation or a tithe and say, hey, I want this to go to a missions trip. So you need to be able to track that and spend it appropriately. So we like to think of fund accounting as different envelopes or buckets of money that you're tracking for those purposes. And so you can very easily track how the income is and the expense per fund with our software. So us versus QuickBooks Online. Made for churches, QuickBooks made for small businesses. Aplos is very user-friendly. The setup is geared towards a non-accountant in mind. We understand most people doing books at churches are not CPAs, so we try to make it very user-friendly and intuitive. We also have tons of resources. We do weekly webinars, a lot of online videos if you look at YouTube. So we always try to promote material and make it easy. A lot of the districts we work with, and even the CMN churches, you get a specific landing page that you can sign up for that push, a good chart of accounts that was approved, and help a lot of the ease of setting up with some of the ways we can streamline that. Support is also free. It's included in the cost of the software. Our customer satisfaction ratings are around 97%. So we'd like to keep our customers long-term and happy, and we feel like the least we can do is provide you with great support. I know QuickBooks has some sketchy support. You might get outsourced to a different call center in a different country and have trouble getting what you need answered. So we never want that to be an issue. We are all based out of California, a support team is. So if you get on the phone and call someone, you're going to get one of our California support members. And we just long-term want to make everyone of our customers happy and confident in the software. So the learning curve is very small, and as you get more comfortable and confident, we're here to even help you with the trickier questions. So just go over a couple reviews versus some of the competitors out there before I hop into a little bit more of the software. appreciate all the good reviews we get. Like, it really helps people feel comfortable, especially in this day and age. Alrighty, gonna hop into some of the other stuff. So real quick, a little comparison with QuickBooks. I can send this spreadsheet or this comparison sheet out to you afterwards if you're interested in looking at it further. If you are, just go ahead and type in the chat and say, hey, I'd like that QuickBooks comparison sheet. This can be beneficial if you're taking this to your board meeting and they're like, hey, we want to use QuickBooks. This is just good representation of the difference in our softwares. We do think QuickBooks is great for small businesses. It's just there's a lot of limitations when you're trying to do fund accounting. Alrighty, go ahead and hop into the software. So with Aplos, this is going to be your dashboard. This will be the first thing you see when you log in. You're going to get some overview of the metrics on the health of the church or the nonprofit you're working with. Each user can customize their own dashboard to kind of what they want to see. You get income expense breakouts, contributions, donations. You can look at giving trends, history, that kind of stuff, as well as any upcoming payables or receivables or their past due, as well as things like alerts. Maybe you forgot to close a bank reconciliation, you still haven't integrated some of your contributions over to the accounting side. Just things to keep an eye on. So go ahead and hop into some of the structure within Aplos. Here you have your chart of accounts. The chart of accounts, you have the ability to add a fund, color code it, and it's going to drop into the equity and fund balance section. So here I have that. You have the ability to manipulate the chart of accounts however you want to create it. Of this, for example, fund didn't belong in this group, I could drag it to a different group. If I didn't like this group name, I could rename it. I could add more groups. It's very user-friendly and functional. You have your assets and liabilities. And then you have your income and expense accounts. With your income and expense accounts, you have the ability to default them to a specific fund if you need to. So that's always an option as well. Or you can just select any fund and you can choose it when you're doing the transaction. Then we have something called tags in Aplos. Tags is something you would be familiar with if you use QuickBooks. It's very similar to what a class is inside of QuickBooks. It tracks income and expense. Tags are great for your ministries, missions trips, departments, events, camps, things that you want to track, but you don't necessarily need a fund for it. Funds are very permanent, long-term things. You can pull a balance sheet by a fund, where with a tag, you can only pull an income statement for, but you can budget by both a fund and a tag if you need to. So there's the option for increased flexibility in reporting with tags. So rather than having a line item, like I might have an office supplies line item. In other systems that aren't fund accounting friendly and don't kind of have this tag structure that we've created, with office supplies, you might have 5 different office supplies expense accounts because that's how you're categorizing how you're spending per ministry or per fund. With Aplos, you're going to need one office supplies expense account or other income or expense accounts, and then you categorize that transaction by the fund and the tag that you put on that transaction. So there's a lot of functionality and a lot of reporting you can get with it, and it just makes things very simple and easy. So you have the ability to budget as well inside of Aplos. So we have 2 different levels of accounting software. We have the lower level for the smaller churches that maybe the church plants, the ones that are growing, they don't need the ability to budget by fund or budget by tab. They just need an overall budget. So we give you kind of 2 different options on the accounting side. The more advanced accounting comes with more features than just that, but it really depends on the needs of the church and what you're looking to do and what kind of reporting you need, and if you're streamlining some of the entry and things you have to do. Hop over into transactions and registers. This is one of the most user-friendly ways to get information into software because it does the debits and credits for you on the back end. So fill out these fields. It's always required you select a fund when you do a transaction. That way we can always pull from a fund balance. And then I have the ability to put the tag on the transaction as well. If I scroll down, I can see within the asset or liability account the breakout between my funds. So I might have, close to 400,000 in my checking account, but I can see how it's broken out between my different funds. Also, it's very easy to split transactions by funds or by ministries or missions or tags if you need to. Then we have the journal entry screen. Again, like I said, true fund counting software, so you can do your journal entry, but if it doesn't balance by fund, you can't post the transaction. So you can see, hey, you're out of balance, you can't post this. So I'd have to make sure that when I'm doing journal entries, it balances per fund as well. It's also very easy to transfer money between funds within one of my asset or liability accounts if I need to. So I'm like, hey, I need to move over money within this checking account from this fund to this fund. I can do something like that very quickly and very easily. Then we have accounts payable, accounts receivable, bank integration. If you want to connect with your bank accounts or credit card feeds and pull transactions in that way. Your bank reconciliation, give you an idea of what that looks like. You'll choose the asset or liability account you're reconciling, opening balance, ending date, ending balance. It's going to pull through the transactions during that time period. I've never actually done one in this demo account, so there's a lot of transactions in here, but the idea is you'll have your statement in front of you or on another screen, and you'll go ahead and click them off. It's going to take away from the balance in the bottom right hand corner. Then you have the ability to do check printing, and you can do batch check printing here. You can also, if you have the advanced accounting, you can do recurring transactions and payables and receivables. You can track your fixed assets, and you can also do allocations, which helps set up automated splits between your income and expenses. For payroll options, we have the ability to use Gusto. They're a full-service payroll. With Gusto, what they do is they file your taxes for you and everything, and they help with housing allowances, pastoral taxation. So it's kind of like having an outsourced bookkeeper that does all the work, and they assume the liability for payroll, so there's really an ease of mind with it. They say the average payroll in Gusto takes about 7 minutes to run, so it makes things very user-friendly and easy, and they really align with us. You don't have to use Gusto if you don't want to for payroll. You can import in journal entries from other payroll companies. And this is just kind of the best option that works with Aplos, but is by no means required. I'm going to go ahead and hop into some of the donation side of things, the contributions, hop into purposes. So purposes is how we categorize giving inside of Aplos. I have the ability to create a purpose. And so, for example, if it was for a specific mission trip, we could say, hey, this is for Sierra Leone. Anyone who wants to give to that mission trip. I can create this purpose. I'm going to choose what income account it belongs to. We'll say, hey, this is restricted contribution income. It's going to be coming out of the, or going into the missions fund. And then if I have that specific missions trip tagged to track it on my accounting side, I can put it in here. And so what this does is when they give online towards this purpose, they just select Sierra Leone as their giving purpose. But on the back end, it's already mapped to your income account, your fund, and your tag. And so it automates the whole contribution entry of things. So I can save this, and then when I'm ready to go, let me put something in here. And so when I go into record my contributions, I have the ability to record them one at a time before I do my batch deposit, or I can do my batch deposit, which most churches will do because you generally batch them all at once after a Sunday offering. But if you're a nonprofit or have a ministry affiliated that's doing it a little bit differently, you can do them one at a time and then batch them when you're ready to deposit in the bank account. So here, deposit, I'm going to create a new one. Date of the contribution, so we can say, hey, it was on Sunday, it was by this donor, they gave to this purpose, the amount. If anything's non-tax deductible, if there's any expenses associated with it. For a nonprofit or ministry, you might want to track if you're thanking your donors. For churches, not as important. You can just dismiss most of them. This up here, this is the date of your deposit into your bank account. So this should line up with that, making the bank rec a lot easier. This becomes important when you're looking at the end of year stuff, and people need the ability to, maybe they gave on the last Sunday of the month, the 30th, so that should be here, but you didn't deposit until the first week of January. This way their contribution statements are correct, but then also your accounting is correct. Go with this, and then we'll go one more, just to give an idea of the way it works. Go ahead and hit save, and now it's going to post it to, test batch. And it's going to post it to the accounting side. If I wanted to stop it before posting because I wanted someone else to review it, I could click do not post to accounting and come back in and post it when I'm ready. Hit save. And so now it's going to be funneled to the accounting side. So if I go into my register, back to the checking account, I can say, hey, we have this accounting contribution, $175. Looks kind of like a bank deposit. It can show, hey, this is broke out between your funds and your tags. And then if I want to say, hey, I still want to see the original transaction, I can go right here, source contribution, test batch. It's going to take me right back to the individual. And so you have that ability of the seamless integration between the church management, contribution management, and the accounting side of things. I'm going to go ahead and hop into reports in a second, but I want to ask another question. So 1 second, let me pull the poll up. Go ahead and see, what is your current accounting solution? Give it a few more seconds. Great. Alrighty, looks like about 50% of us are on QuickBooks, and then we have a mix for the remaining 50%. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and hop into some of the reports. So obviously the big one inside of Aplos that you can't pull inside of QuickBooks or some of the other business softwares is a balance sheet by fund. Here I can pull my balance sheet. I have the ability to filter in my funds. We can say, hey, let's look at all my funds. Besides the allocate one. I'm going to filter in my total real quick too. And so now I can look at my balance sheet, but it's going to be broken out by funds and columns. So you can see, hey, these are the totals within these asset and liability accounts, but I can easily see how it's broken out between my funds. So this report's always real time because you're always required to put a fund on the transaction you're doing, and that way we can always have an accurate balance sheet. See my unrestricted versus my restricted, different totals. And any of the amounts ever look wrong, all the reports have full drill down capability. So here I have the ability to look into it and say, hey, this doesn't look right. It's going to take me to a transaction list for that account. And I can say, hey, maybe this transaction doesn't look right. It will take me right back to the individual transaction. So all of the reports have that full drill down capability. So you have that ability. And then you have the ability to do an income statement by fund very easily as well. This one can actually be pulled in some of the business softwares if you're tracking them as classes. So here I can filter in my time range. Probably have more info in here if I go last year. I take out my zero balances and add my totals. So then I have my income statement by fund as well. Look at the net within each of the funds. Also very simple to share reports directly from the software. So I'm like, hey, I want to send this to our board member group. You can do that right here. If you wanted to save it, because you put a lot of filters on it, you can save it. If you want to download it to Excel because there's further manipulation you want to do to it, you can do that as well. So you have a lot of functionality, but there's also a lot of filters you can add on each of the reports. If you're like, hey, I want to just show the funds as pages, not side by side, I can look at the income statement individually for each fund. So it's like, hey, general fund, and then I want to look at just the ministry fund. You have the ability to do that as well. Then you have the ability to look at your budget to actual, You can filter in things like your budget percentage and your annual budget. You can do comparative income statements, comparative periods for your budgeting. There's a lot of functionality you get with the reports, a lot of filters you can add on each of the reports. So those are kind of three of the main ones, and then hop into some of the stuff for your tags. So again, tags are great for kind of tracking the individual things within the church, like your ministries or your mission trips. And then I can do comparative reporting with them as well. So I'm like, hey, I want to look at a comparative income statement for my mission tags. So I'm going to filter in last year, and then filter in my missions and my missionaries. Hit apply. And then I can look at them comparing each other real quickly. I can see, hey, water wells is in the negative. Can your coffee fields in the negative? So you can very quickly look into individual aspects of the church, see maybe where you have money coming in, money's bleeding out maybe. And so you can catch things very quickly if you're tagging and you're doing it appropriately. So there's the comparative income statement. And then there's also something really cool that we recently created a few months ago called tag statements. And what this does is I can do things like a tag statement by fund. Show the funds as columns. But what it does is it's going to list my tags as my rows. Again, filter in last year because there's more info. Now here I can see, hey, these are my different tags. I have the ability to filter in my subtags or my subtotal by set tag groups. And so I can see, hey, look at my different regions, Africa versus South America. And I have the ability to, now I have my tags as my rows, and then I can filter in my funds as my columns. So we can say, hey, let's look at how these trips are spending by the different funds. And so here I can compare and see, hey, this is how they're spending, or the income's coming in for the different funds for these trips. So you get dimensional reporting comparing your tags with your funds. And you can do this for budgets, you can do this for net figures over time periods. There's a lot of different things you can do with the tag statements that really can help out what you're looking for. And then we have the ability to look at some of the donation reports as well. There's a couple different ones. So as you're recording the contributions out of Aplos, it's counting that towards that person's contribution statement. So, for example, I can go in the report like donations by contact, and this is going to show all the donations by contact for that time period. I can filter in things like accounts, funds, purposes that were given to. So I just want to look at like the Sierra Leone purpose or ministries or so on and so forth. You can look at your different purposes. You can look at different amount thresholds. You can look at different groups. So if you want to look at, individuals versus companies or groups or life groups or different ministries, all kinds of different ways you can break out this reporting. Then with this report, it's a very nifty report because I have the ability to very quickly print my contribution statements or email them out to everyone on that list. So I wanted to email it out for everyone for this year so far. I could say, hey, let's do this. Also, you could filter in different time periods, but we'll say, hey, let's just give you an idea of the way it looks. We'll print a contribution statement, go ahead and populate this, give you an idea of the way that you can send out those contribution statements. And so this one's for Alex, shows us different contributions per fund or purpose versus his individual contributions. If I scroll down, that's now going to be for Andy, and so on and so forth. So very easy, couple quick clicks, and you have all your contribution statements. Then you have the ability to pull things like donations by purpose. So you get the summary statement here that I'm going to pull up right here, contributions by purpose. And here I can look at my purposes, the total amounts for that time period, the number of contributions, and then I can click in and get more details if I need to. And you can filter in your purposes and different time ranges as well. So you can very quickly see your different giving trends, and you can map them over different time periods and stuff like that to make it very user-friendly, give you some more visibility and help increase the accountability. of things as well. So let me give you an idea of the way a contact looks inside of the people list. Go ahead and pull up Aaron. So with Aaron, here I can see all the different details I track within this person. I can track custom fields like enrollment date. If I'm tracking church planners, if I'm looking at different regions, districts, that kind of stuff. Um, all depends on what you want to track, but you have the ability to add as many custom fields as you need. And you can pull lists based off custom fields. I can track individual notes, what lists they belong to, which is like the groups that they belong to. Contribution history, if there's any pledge history, to populate through here as well. Reports of contact is going to be like a CRM side of things. So each time I reach out to someone through an email or I print a letter through the software, it will update here. If I want to record that we went and got coffee or I gave them a phone call, the stewardship of that relationship with that contact, I can record it all here. I can track relationships and households, important dates, baptisms, birthdays, anniversaries, set reminders, look at the accounting transactions that they might have. And I can do quick stuff here as well. So I can say, hey, let's add a contribution just for him, or download a contribution statement, email it out, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of functionality in here. I'm going to go through a couple other quick features we have before closing this out pretty soon. But with this, you actually have the ability to, we just recently added child check-in this last week. So you have the ability to now do child check-in or check-in for different events that you put on. You can manage small groups and teams, so they have their own communication hub. They can track meetings, attendance. You have email marketing in here, as well as a website builder and a letter builder. And you have the ability to do online donation pages that will automatically feed into their Aplos account and their bank account. So there's an automated way to create your online donation forms. It's very easy, very user-friendly. We're trying to be a one-stop shop for all the churches and nonprofits we serve. And we are continually adding features each week to improve the software and make it better. Like we have event registration as well if you need to sell tickets for events. There's a lot of different things you can do with our software, and it's all fully integrated. So, a lot of churches we come across are using QuickBooks and some kind of church management software, like maybe Breeze, which Breeze is a good software, but you have trouble connecting these two different softwares to try to get the reports you need. Maybe you're doing double entry, maybe you're double counting some things you shouldn't. It's a lot harder when you're using two different systems and they might not be as user friendly or you're not sure how to connect them. We try to make everything a one-stop shop, but it doesn't mean you're required to use Aplos for everything. So if you just wanted to use Aplos for the accounting side, you can still use a different church management software and we'll advise you, hey, this is how you should get that in here. Or we even have integration with Church Community Builder. As well as online donations. If you don't want to use us for your online donations, we'll tell you how to get in there. You can use PushPay or Tithely, depending on what you want to do. So there's a lot of good options out there. We just want to be very user-friendly in the ability to plug and play to what best suits your needs as a church or a nonprofit. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for a little Q&A time. If there's anything else that you want to see or you want to look into a little further, any questions you have on comparative features, feel free to ask some questions in that section. What's the processing fee for online donations using Aplos? So with Aplos, the processing fee is 3% plus 30 cents for credit cards, and then 2% plus 30 cents for ACH transactions. Our payment processor that we work with is called WePay. They're owned by Chase Bank. The nice thing about WePay that isn't common with a lot of payment processors is WePay allows the donor to cover the transaction fee. So now the church or the nonprofit gets the full amount of the donation or contribution. And so that goes as a full write-off on the contribution statement. So rather than showing $100 on the contribution statement, it would show $100 or $103.30, and then the church would receive the full $100 gift. So those are the processing fees for the online donations. Yeah, so Stephanie asked a question, is there a way to allow another person to do entries such as contributions and still lock down AP, segregating duties and access? Yeah, so here I'll go ahead and hop into some different user permission roles. Here I can add a user, and there you can see the different user permission roles. We have different levels of access, so full access to the entire suite, including settings. If I just want to give someone access to doing contributions or donations, if I want to give them read-only access, maybe just access to the contacts, maybe just access to the accounting, that kind of stuff. And then I also have what we call a custom report manager. With the advanced accounting, you get the ability to give read-only access to certain funds or tags or purposes. So, for example, if you're a larger church or a larger nonprofit and you wanted to give read-only access to, like, you wanted to give a missionary read-only access to see how much he's fundraised so far for his trip, I can go in here and create a custom report manager and say, hey, you're in charge of, say, you're going to Sierra Leone. And here I can create a user and they can log in and only look at reports that are associated with that purpose, that tag, or that fund, or that account. So the custom report manager as well for read-only access reports is available in the advanced accounting. You're welcome. Any more questions? Also, something to think about is we do have the ability to fully outsource your bookkeeping to us. We offer bookkeeping services. So if you are a church who doesn't feel like doing the transaction entry or even handling it, we can manage all of that. There's a lot of CMN churches that we work with, some of the coaches that we work with at these launch and training events that are like, hey, we don't even want to handle it. We just want our reports. And we'll give you, the contribution entry or information so you can do the rest. Very easy for us to do. We enjoy it. The nice thing about us taking over the books is, it's getting done right. We're experts in our software. And if you ever want to take over the books again, we can easily hand it right back off to you. We just give you access right back to your software. So you can start doing all the data entry. So it's good if you're going through an adjustment period and you're like, hey, we don't have a bookkeeper or a financial administrator right now. We're happy to take over it. And then if you ever want to take it back, it's very easy just to hand it right back off to you. And then also something else, since we're still on this user screen, we do have an activity log, which is an audit trail by keystroke. So if anything ever goes wrong or happens in the software, maybe someone made an entry they weren't supposed to, you can always default back to this. This can't be erased or deleted. It's very granular. It's going to track everything, and so I can very easily track and look at this. Alrighty, I think there's no more questions. I'm going to follow up with you guys probably within this week. For those of you who attended, and see if you have any extra questions or if there's anything I can help with at this time. I appreciate you attending this webinar, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.